pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page, capturing life as soft-spoken.
Hey everybody, Jane here, and today we're going to discuss Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is an incredibly popular book, and it is the first Colleen Hoover I have ever personally read. It is a thriller, and it is about a girl, Lowen, who the book is told from her perspective, so I think that's why I don't know her name. Lowen is a struggling writer. She's had a couple mid-list books come out, nothing that was super successful, and she has recently lost her apartment due to financial things with her mother, who has recently died. Lowen gets a call from her agent that they want her to ghostwrite the rest of a book series written by this author, Verity. And Verity was in a car accident and she's unable to complete the series due to her health, but the publisher wants the rest of the series to be finished. And Verity's husband says that Verity was a big fan of Lowen and would have wanted her to be the one to continue the series. And so Lowen figures, well, I really need the money, might as well go and do this. And then the craziness happens. So, before I get into a detailed, spoilery review, I will just tell you I gave this book a 4 out of 5. I had some small issues with it, but I did really like it, and I thought it was a well-done book. All right, so in just a minute, I'm going to go into spoilers, and we're going to do spoilers the rest of the video. So if you do not want to hear spoilers, maybe come back after you've read the book. But before we go into the spoiler section, I just want to remind people I'm an author. I've recently put out my most recent book, Hunter, for pre-order on Amazon. It is a romance between a werewolf rock star and a girl who works at the Humane Society. So if that seems like that might tick your buttons, please go check my book out. I will leave a link to my book below. And now back to Verity. And I will tell you too, I'm coming at this as an author, so some of my comments may be things that occur to me as somebody who writes that are weird or good or bad about the writing experience in this book. So we have Lowen, who goes to Verity's house, and she's been invited to stay there because Verity has all of these notes in her office that are just not organized, and she's going to need to find the notes and read over the notes for the book series to try to find out what Verity was trying to do, where she wanted to go with the characters and the story. And I will tell you that is spot on. I have notes and little notebooks everywhere, and there is no rhyme or reason. I don't have an office, but I actually have like totes and shoe boxes with story notes and story ideas. So that part was so spot on. It was feeling very called out. But anyway, so Lowen is going through these notes and she finds a diary. And in this diary, Verity has written some really horrific things, honestly. She has written about, firstly, a really obsessive love for her husband. What is her husband's name? I don't. Jeremy. Ooh. My boyfriend's name's Jeremy. Anyway, so Verity has written this obsessive. She's obsessed with her husband. She was obsessed with him from the minute they met. They had some kids together, starting out with twins. And in this diary, she just talks about how much she basically hates her kids and neglects them because all she wants to do is have sex with her husband, which is kind of so gross. Like, and I'm a mother of twins too, and I think that hit like extra, like any woman choosing a man over her kids, I just have a lot of issues. And Verity is just like, all she wants to talk about is the bedroom stuff she wants to do with her husband, and the kids are just getting in the way. Well, then at some point, shortly after the kids have been around for a little while and she's been neglecting them and treating them like crap, and all of a sudden she decides that she likes one of them and that she is sure the other one is going to kill the first one. And things happen, and the one that she felt that she decided she did like ended up dying from a freak accident. But in the diary, she says, I was sure my other daughter caused it, and so I murdered her. And they do by this point have a son who I assume she likes him okay. Like, she hasn't said the negative stuff other than obviously, he cramps her style a little bit because all she wants to do is bang her husband. So, Lowen finds this diary, and Lowen is also falling in love with Jeremy as she's reading the diary and finding out the horrible things Verity's done. Now, Verity is still living there. Verity was in a car accident that we learn that Jeremy caused after finding her diary and realizing that she murdered one of his children, and also that she was a terrible mom to them beforehand. So he takes her, gets her in the car, and tries to kill her, fails, and now she is incapacitated. We'll just leave it there for the second. So Lowen knows all this is going on and is seducing Jeremy. And at one point she's even like rubbing it in Verity's nose. Verity is in her wheelchair sitting there, and Lowen basically says something and Verity pees herself to indicate that she heard and understands what Lowen is saying, although everybody's telling Lowen that, Verity's just in a vegetative state. She doesn't understand anything. She's not having much responsiveness. She's constantly cared for by nurses. The only thing she can do is like open her mouth to eat. She can't speak. She has like minimal levels of consciousness in response to her surroundings. But Lowen is sure that Verity is faking it while she's seducing the husband. It went some dark, crazy places, and I didn't necessarily think it was bad that it went dark, crazy places. I actually liked that it did that because there were places I hadn't seen or expected. But then I also didn't enjoy Verity's obsession with her husband. I'm like, let's be clear, I'm not a prude. I write romance, but it was icky. Verity's was icky, and then Lowen and Jeremy was icky. Everything was icky. And I don't necessarily mean, I don't mean it was graphic. I don't mean it was smutty. I just mean, it made me uncomfortable. Not with the description, but with Verity being so obsessed with her husband in a gross kind of way. And then Lowen, in this house with this woman who is comatose upstairs, who she's supposed to be working for, and she's seducing her husband or being seduced by the husband. And I was uncomfortable. But again, that's fine. This book, it's a thriller. It's meant to make you uncomfortable. So as time goes on, she is sure that Verity is faking her injuries. And at one point, and I don't remember exactly how this goes, they go upstairs and Verity rises up out of the bed and attacks them with a knife and they kill her. They kill Verity. This is after saying they were going, I remember now. So Lowen was trying to convince Jeremy that Verity needed to be in a nursing home to get the care she needed, that at-home caregivers weren't the right thing, and that, Jeremy and his son were never going to be able to move on with their life if Verity was upstairs in bed, being taken care of in her own home with the fortune that she mostly made from her books. Just throwing that out there. I know she's supposed to be the big bad character, but I actually had a lot of sympathy for Verity, even though, well, partly because I am Team Letter, and I know Colleen Hoover has said that, Verity's just awful, was always awful, and the letter, which I'm going to get to in a second, is a fake. But reading that diary felt like it was written by a man. I was really expecting us to find out that Jeremy had written it because he wanted to kill his wife and give himself like a motive to when he was found out, be like, well, she murdered my child. So what did you expect me to do? Because, like, I'm sorry, no woman that I have ever met is as into their husband as Verity is. Like, Verity's a whole different level of into her husband, and it was really weird. So anyway, they kill Verity, and then Lowen comes back later, and by this point she's pregnant with Jeremy's kid, because of course she is. And she finds a letter that basically is Verity saying, "Ah, you silly people. How could you, Jeremy, how could you ever have believed that I would hurt our children, and that I'm that obsessed with you? I was doing a writing thing. My editor told me that to be a villain, I needed, or to write really good villains, I needed to do this exercise where I wrote my life with me as a villain so that I could really understand how the dark mind works." And that's kind of where it ends. It's kind of slightly ambiguous, with us going, well, did Verity really do the things that she said she did in the diary, or was it something she did as a writing prompt that Jeremy found, and that their children's deaths were just accidents, tragic accidents, that, she had used this as a coping device, basically, and then he decides, oh, this must be real, and tried to kill her. Also, I just want to know, she has an around the clock nurse. She was seen by doctors. How does nobody know that Verity is in way better shape? Like, enough to get up out of bed and do stuff and try to attack people. Like, I call crap on that. I work with nurses, and like, nurses, at least the nurses I work with, are top notch. Okay. They can tell a patient is sick before the patient knows sometimes. A patient will come in and they'll be like, you aren't doing good. And they'll be like, I'm mostly fine. I'm just a little off. No, 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 you are dying and you need to go to the ER right now. Like, that is a legit thing that happens with the nurses that I work with. So to have nurses in this book, and it's like the same nurse, who are taking care of Verity and don't realize that she's not really in a vegetative state, and that she's getting up and doing stuff and good enough to stab people, like, I call bullcrap. That was I didn't like that. I didn't like the ambiguous ending. I didn't like that Lowen and Jeremy were together. I didn't like Verity's obsession with Jeremy and all the gross stuff in the diary. Like, there's a lot that I didn't like, but I did think overall this book was really good, and it was like a superior book. For me, a 4-star is a better than average book, and I definitely think this was. I think it was well written. I did think it was thrilling. I read it in like 2 days. I had COVID at the time, so I didn't have anything else going on, but I did read it in 2 days, and I really loved the things it was doing, though I didn't like the experience of going through it. I also have never heard of as a writer, that writing prompt, like to put yourself in the villain's mind. Like, that seems really far out there, and I would never do something like that, like write a diary entry with myself as a bad guy in real life situations. Like, I kind of I found that unbelievable. I found the healthcare workers being as incompetent as they were unbelievable. I was team letter. I thought the letter made sense. It made Verity more sympathetic, and it made the whole thing very tragic. But with Colleen Hoover saying that no, it was just another thing Verity said, like, I guess Verity's just a monstrous person, but I felt like her character was a lot less believable all around. What she was saying in the letter, I could kind of be like, yeah, that makes sense. It's dumb. I don't like it, but I can go with it. Whereas if Verity really did just that obsessed with her husband, and then terrible mother, and murdered her child. But the thing is, her son is not scared of her. Her son is very affectionate with her. He wants his mommy. And mm, I just I feel like she couldn't have been that terrible of a mom, because he wouldn't have responded that way, maybe. I had issues. I did have issues, but I also, like I said, thought this was a good book and I understand why people love it. I just had some issues. So that was my thoughts on Verity. Have you read it? Are you team letter? Are you team diary? What did you think? I will say I've heard Colleen Hoover is primarily a romance writer. I don't think I would want to read romance from her, but I would be willing to read other like mysteries and thrillers because I thought those elements were really well done. All the romance in this book made me icky. I didn't like it, but I did like the mystery thriller elements. So if you would like to recommend another Colleen Hoover to me that is not a romance and um and maybe is a mystery thriller, something that I could appreciate, please leave that comment below. Also, did anybody else think the healthcare workers were kind of incompetent? Like, am I the only person who caught that? And I wonder if I am, because I had a nurse friend who read the book also, and we talked about it. And I'm like, you don't think the nurses would have noticed? And like, my friend who is a nurse, she would have noticed. I 100% promise you. She's not gonna be like, oh, I didn't catch that this person wasn't in a vegetative state anymore. Silly me. No. She'd have known before Verity did that she was improving, that something was happening. So yeah. Please leave your thoughts below. If you have any other book recommendations for me of a similar vein to Verity, I did enjoy a lot of that. So please leave those below. I'm always looking for new books to read. If you enjoyed this video, hit like. And if you'd like more content, please subscribe. This has been Jane, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.